He said I could explore. Said he trusted me enough to let me figure things out for myself. So I did. I met someone else. I crossed the line. I thought I could handle it. I thought he meant it. But I was wrong because he knew exactly what I would do. And the whole time, he was waiting. Not to punish me, but to walk away without needing to say a single word. We were married for 6 years. Comfortable, stable, quiet. The kind of marriage people assume is strong because there aren't any visible cracks. But anyone who's lived inside silence knows that stillness can be deceptive. His name is Daniel. Calm, methodical, the type of man who sets a schedule for grocery shopping and sticks to it for 5 years. I used to love that about him. Still do, in some twisted way. There's safety in routine until you start suffocating inside it. It began during one of those late night talks that aren't really talks, just fragmented thoughts after too much wine and too little sleep. We were sitting on the couch, lights off, TV glowing in the background. He looked at me and said, "Do you ever think we missed out? Like, we settled too soon?" I laughed it off at first. "What? Like you want a hall pass?" But he didn't laugh. He just stared ahead and said, "Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing. You and me, we've been together since college. We never even had the chance to be curious." The room went quiet. My heart did that thing where it races and freezes at the same time. I asked him what he meant. He said, "I trust you. If you ever wanted to, I don't know, explore something, I wouldn't hold it against you." I asked him if he meant it. He said yes. I didn't believe him, but I didn't forget it either. The next few weeks were strange. He was warmer than usual, more relaxed, like giving me that freedom had somehow made him lighter. I didn't bring it up again, but it hung in the air between us, unspoken but vibrating. Then came Evan. We met at a networking event. He wasn't anything special, not in the magazine cover sense, but he had an ease about him, a way of asking questions that felt like he actually cared about the answers. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything, and when he touched my elbow lightly while laughing, I felt something in me shift. I told Daniel that night, not everything, just that I'd met someone interesting. He nodded, half listening, scrolling his phone. "Are you gonna see him again?" he asked, casually. "I don't know. Maybe." Okay, that was it. No jealousy, no interrogation, just calm, collected Daniel. And for some reason, that made me want to test it. The next week, Evan asked me to lunch. I went. We talked about books, about childhood stuff, about stupid things like who eats the crust on bread and who peels it off. And when he walked me to my car and brushed my hand with his, I didn't pull away. I didn't kiss him, but something opened inside me. Like a door I didn't know was there had suddenly clicked open with a gust of wind. I went home that night and told Daniel again. He touched my hand, I said, and I let him. He looked at me and asked, "How did it feel?" I didn't know how to answer that, so I just said, "Different." He nodded. "Okay." I asked him, "Doesn't it bother you?" He said, "You're still here. That's what matters." I should have stopped then. But the thing about doors is once they're open, they don't just close themselves. Things escalated, not quickly, but steadily, like a slow leak in a pipe you don't notice until the floor's already ruined. The next time Evan and I met, it was for coffee, then a walk through the park, then a late lunch that turned into wine. The conversation stretched, deepened. We talked about the people we used to be and the versions of ourselves we'd never become. I laughed more in those hours than I had in the last year of my marriage. There was no plan, no countdown to a moment. But when he kissed me, it didn't feel like a decision. It felt like exhaling. I didn't tell Daniel that time, not right away. For 2 days, I carried it in my chest like a live wire. I couldn't sleep, couldn't look Daniel in the eye. Not because I thought he'd be angry. He wouldn't be, but because I didn't want him to say it was okay. When I finally told him, I kept it short. I kissed him. Daniel looked up from his laptop, blinked once, then twice. Okay. I waited for more, but there wasn't any, so I asked, "That's all you're going to say?" He shrugged slightly. "You said you might explore. I didn't expect you to send me status updates." Something about that response made me feel ugly, like I'd become a checkbox on a list, like he had already moved me into a different category in his head. Wife, now exploring. Noted. But I couldn't blame him, could I? He'd given me permission. I was the one crossing the lines and still coming home. So I kept going. I saw Evan again and again. The emotional intimacy turned physical. But the more I was with Evan, the less I understood what I wanted from him. It wasn't love. It wasn't even desire, exactly. It was clarity, a reflection of something I hadn't seen in myself in years. Spontaneity, heat, something wild. But then something shifted in Daniel. He became colder, not cruel, just quieter. His smiles became thinner. He stopped asking how my day was, stopped reaching for me in bed. He cooked a dinner, but stopped setting my plate. He did the laundry, but folded only his clothes. I asked him if something was wrong. He said, "No." I pushed. "You're acting different." He looked at me for a long time, then said, "You wanted freedom. I'm giving you space." That night, I lay awake wondering if I'd misread everything, if I'd misunderstood the rules. Maybe I had, but it was too late to undo. One night, Evan and I went out of town, just for a night. A small hotel, nothing fancy. We didn't even talk much, just sat on the bed afterward, both quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. He asked me if I was going to leave my husband. I said no. He didn't argue. He just looked disappointed, and I felt something cave in. When I got home, Daniel was in the kitchen, washing dishes. He didn't ask where I'd been. I didn't offer. I said, "Do you still want me?" He didn't turn around. He said, "That depends. Do you even know who me is anymore?" I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I stopped seeing Evan after that. Not because I didn't want to, but because I realized I was searching for something he never promised to give me. Whatever part of me had been starving had already fed, and now it was sick. I tried to bring life back into our home. I started cooking again. I asked Daniel if he wanted to go for a drive, like we used to when we first dated. I even bought tickets to a movie he'd mentioned months ago in passing. He said yes to everything, but his eyes never softened. It was like being forgiven by a robot, motions without meaning. One evening, as we were folding laundry together, I finally asked, "Do you hate me?" He didn't look up. "No." "Then what is this?" He paused. "This is me accepting who you are." I felt a knot in my throat. That sounds worse than hate. He gave a short, dry laugh. "Maybe it is." I wanted to scream, to beg him to yell at me, to say anything that would make me feel like a person again, not a study subject under observation. But he never raised his voice, and that was what made it unbearable. He started sleeping in the guest room. I asked him if he wanted space. He said, "I thought that's what you wanted." "No," I said. "That's what you said I could have." He turned off the hallway light and said, "Same thing." Weeks passed. Evan stopped texting. Daniel stopped touching, and I stopped pretending I was okay. One Sunday morning, I came downstairs and found him sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee, a manila folder in front of him. He didn't say a word, just nodded for me to sit. Inside the folder were printouts, screenshots of texts, photos from hotel check ins. a receipt from the place Evan and I stayed. Everything. I didn't ask how he got them. He handed me a second folder. Inside, divorce paperwork. Filled out. Neat. Complete. I looked up at him. You knew all this time. He nodded. From the second you told me about Evan. Then why didn't you stop me? He didn't flinch. Because I wanted to know who you really were. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. He said, You always had a choice. I just stopped being the one making it for you. I whispered, So this was a test? No, he said quietly. It was a reveal. I didn't sign the papers that day. I couldn't. Not out of defiance, not even out of regret, but because I realized I didn't know if the version of me that destroyed this could ever build anything again. Daniel didn't ask me to leave. He didn't push. He gave me space, like always. But this time, the space felt final. We lived under the same roof for 3 more weeks. Civil, quiet, painfully polite. I cooked. He ate. He cleaned. I thanked him. Every night, he slept in the guest room. Every morning, he brewed 2 cups of coffee but only drank one. Then one night, I asked if I could sit beside him on the couch. He nodded. I said, I don't know why I did what I did. He didn't respond. I continued, maybe I wanted to feel something, anything, but I didn't expect to lose everything in the process. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, You didn't lose everything. You traded it. The words hit harder than yelling ever could. I asked him, Is there a way back? He didn't hesitate. Not to what we were. That version of us doesn't exist anymore. I started crying. Not the kind of sobs that beg for comfort. The kind that come when you finally see the wreckage you caused from a distance. He didn't comfort me. He just let me feel it. And somehow that hurt more. Later that week, I came home to find the guest room empty. His drawers cleared, closet open. He left a note on the counter. I'm not angry. I just can't keep loving someone who asks to be broken and then blames me for the pieces. That night, I slept in our bed alone for the first time in months. And I finally read the divorce papers. The space for my signature sat blank for days. Then I signed it. Not because I didn't love him, but because I finally understood that real love doesn't survive betrayal when the betrayer can't explain why she did it. It's been 11 months. I haven't seen Daniel since, but I think about him often. When I pass his favorite sandwich shop, when I see a man in a bookstore reading the same author he loved, when I catch myself laughing too loud, remembering a version of myself that once felt like home to someone. I haven't dated, not because I don't want to, but because I'm still trying to forgive myself for becoming the kind of woman who needed permission to destroy what was already whole. This wasn't a story about cheating. Not really. It was a story about disconnection, about how far people drift before they notice the rope is no longer tied at either end, about the silence between I trust you and I knew you'd do it, about a man who gave me space to explore and watched me walk so far I forgot how to return.